You didn't fall in love with him because he gave you everything. You fell because he gave you just enough. A breadcrumb, a signal, a moment, and it was just enough to activate the ache in your chest you've carried for years. That ache is not about him. It's about every moment in your life when you felt invisible, unworthy, or second best. And when he treated you like nothing, your nervous system remembered. It remembered the first time someone you loved didn't see you. And now, your mind calls this pain love. It tells you that if you can just get him to see you, to choose you, to validate you, maybe the wound will finally close. But that's not healing, that's repetition. Some women confuse chemistry with value. They believe that if they feel a strong emotional pull, it must mean he's the one. But what if that pull is trauma dressed as desire? What if the part of you that feels addicted to him is the part that's never felt safe? The part that learned early on that love is supposed to be painful, unpredictable, and earned. He doesn't value you. But your mind spins a story that maybe you just need to prove yourself. That if you're pretty enough, patient enough, calm enough, maybe he'll come around. You don't want to leave because you don't want to lose. But here's the truth. You already lost when you started trying to earn what should be given freely. This isn't love. It's survival. It's the echo of a little girl inside you who learned that love had to be chased. And now, every time he pulls away, it feels familiar. Every time he ignores you, something in you lights up, not in joy, but in old pain. Pain that never got closure. Pain that now wears his face. He treats you like nothing. Yet you can't stop thinking about him. You check your phone. You replay every word. You wonder what you did wrong. But it's not about what you did. It's about what you're trying to fix from the past. You're not craving him. You're craving the feeling of finally being enough for someone who never made you feel that way. You believe that if you can make this man love you, it will rewrite your story. But it won't. It'll only deepen the wound. Because every time he neglects you, rejects you, or vanishes, he confirms the belief you already carry, that you are not worth staying for, and you are. But until you see it, you will keep reaching for men who make you prove it. Let's go deeper. You think the intensity means he's special. But what if the intensity is just your unhealed self, screaming for attention? Carl Jung said that, what we don't make conscious, we repeat as fate. So if you're stuck in a pattern of loving men who treat you like nothing, it's not fate, it's your shadow at work. The shadow holds every unmet need, every suppressed pain, every forgotten part of you. It drives your attraction, your choices, your obsessions, and until you bring it to light, it will keep pulling you toward people who reflect your wound, not your worth. He is not your destiny. He is your mirror. He came to show you the part of yourself that you've abandoned, the part that quietly asks, "Am I enough?" The part that hopes that being chosen by him will finally silence the doubt inside. But he can't heal that. He was never meant to. He is the trigger, not the cure. And when you stop seeing his validation as your medicine, you begin to wake up. You start to feel the difference between love and longing, between being chosen and being used, between addiction and connection. Women don't get addicted to men who treat them like nothing because they're weak. They get addicted because deep down, they were never taught what it feels like to be treated like something. And that changes today. But the moment you stop running after someone who never stops to look back, something shifts. You start hearing the quiet voice you've silenced for years. The one that says you deserve to be met fully. The one that doesn't beg for attention, but commands presence. Not by force, but by truth. Because when a woman begins to heal, she doesn't become louder, she becomes clearer. And suddenly, his silence no longer defines your worth. His absence no longer feels like a rejection. You stop waiting for crumbs because you remember what it's like to be whole. The girl who once clung now breathes. The woman who once chased now rests. She doesn't lose her softness. She reclaims her strength. Not the strength to fight for love, but the strength to walk away from what only mimics it. And in that quiet leaving, something miraculous happens. You return to yourself, not the self that doubted or begged, but the one that remembers. Love was never meant to be pain. You just forgot that. Now you remember. Before we go deeper, here's something that might change everything. If you've ever felt addicted to someone who treated you like nothing, the Jung Method can help you understand the emotional roots of your attachment and begin to rewrite your inner narrative. The link is pinned in the first comment. What keeps a woman attached to a man who devalues her is not logic. It's not about compatibility or shared values or future potential. It's about a familiar emotional rhythm. one she may have known since she was a little girl. A pattern where love was always something to be earned, where affection was inconsistent, attention was a reward, and safety was something that came and went like the weather. She may not consciously choose the man who treats her like nothing, but her nervous system does. It recognizes the chaos, the unpredictability, the emotional high that follows the low. It gets hooked on the cycle of hope and despair, of reaching and retreating, of proving her worth over and over to someone who never asked for it, not because she lacks value, but because she was taught that love always comes with struggle, and in that struggle, she finds meaning, not because it's healthy, but because it's familiar. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is exactly what happens here. A woman finds herself drawn to the man who treats her like an afterthought, because some part of her believes that winning his attention will finally prove her enoughness. She doesn't want to be ignored, but being noticed has become the drug, and the one who ignores her becomes the most addictive fix. This is not weakness, this is survival, disguised as desire. Her body remembers what it felt like to be overlooked, to cry in silence, to wait for someone to choose her. And now, she's not addicted to him. She's addicted to the feeling of being close to healing the original wound. The moment he finally sees her, finally chooses her, finally treats her like she matters, she believes the pain will end. That is the illusion, but he never will, because he isn't the healer. He's the mirror. He reflects back the wound that still bleeds inside her. He is not the answer. He is the echo, the replay of a story that needs to end. And the more she stays, the more she reinforces the idea that she is only worthy when someone else decides. So it's not his coldness that hurts the most. It's her silence with herself, her abandonment of her own voice, her own knowing. She stops asking what she wants. She only wonders what he wants. She stops noticing how she feels. She only measures her worth by how he treats her. This is the cost of emotional addiction. It's not bruises on the skin. It's emptiness in the soul. It's a woman forgetting her own power because someone else became the source of her emotional oxygen. But there's another truth, hidden beneath the ache. A truth that breaks the pattern the moment it's seen. That her value was never up for debate. That love doesn't require sacrifice of self. That being treated like nothing is never something she has to accept. And that the wound she's trying to heal through him can only be healed by coming back to herself. It begins slowly, not with a dramatic goodbye, but with a quiet remembering. A pause before sending that message. A breath before checking if he saw her story. A question asked inwardly, not about him, but about her. What do I want? What do I feel? What do I need? These questions open the door to freedom. Because once a woman starts listening to her own answers, the addiction begins to fade. She sees him clearly, not as the savior, but as the signal. The one who woke her up to her own abandonment. The one who reminded her, painfully, that she still had healing to do. And in this clarity, her energy changes. She no longer chases. She no longer waits. She no longer measures her worth by his attention. Instead, she begins to walk a new path. One where love feels safe. One where she doesn't have to perform. One where she is not starving for scraps, but is full from within. This doesn't mean she becomes cold. It means she becomes clear. Clear about what she will no longer tolerate. Clear about what her heart deserves. Clear about the difference between love and longing. She learns that love doesn't hurt like that. That real connection doesn't make her doubt herself every night. That the man who truly sees her will never treat her like she's invisible. And most of all, she realizes that being wanted is not enough. Especially if the want comes wrapped in disrespect. Especially if the desire comes without care. Especially if the attention feels more like control than affection. Because she's not just a body, she's a soul, and her soul deserves reverence. So, when she lets go, it's not because she stopped loving. It's because she started remembering who she is. The woman who once stayed quiet now speaks. The girl who once begged for love now chooses peace. The heart that once broke from rejection now beats with truth. She was never too much. She was never not enough. She was simply asking the wrong person to see what she had not yet seen in herself. But now she sees, and that changes everything. Because once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. Once you feel your own worth, no man can make you doubt it. Once you taste peace, chaos loses its flavor, and the man who once had power over you now fades, not because he changed, but because you did. You healed the part that needed him to feel whole. You stopped assigning your value to someone who couldn't see it. You began to choose you, and in that choice, you became free. And when the silence grows louder than his excuses, you begin to hear something else entirely. The sound of your own longing, no longer distorted by his absence. It is pure, it is raw, and for the first time, it is yours. You no longer fantasize about what he might say if he came back. You no longer imagine his apology, his realization, his regret, because the truth is, that story was never yours to carry. That pain belonged to him, and all you did was try to heal it with your love. But love cannot heal what refuses to be opened, and you are no longer a wound dresser for men who do not choose healing. This is where your real power begins, not in pretending you never cared, not in pretending you're fine, but in being real about what it cost you to chase someone who treated you like nothing, in mourning the years, the dreams, the fragments of yourself you gave away in the hope that they would be enough. You begin to understand why the soul becomes addicted to that kind of pain, because it mimics a pattern of familiar ashi, one that may have started long before him, one that sounds like a father who never turned his head when you walked in the room, like a mother who loved you conditionally, like a childhood spent earning love you never should have had to earn. He wasn't just a man, he was a trigger, and every time he ignored you, it echoed something ancient inside you. But you are not a child anymore. You no longer need to beg for crumbs or twist yourself into someone else's fantasy. You are allowed to be chosen fully, not in secret, not in fragments, but wholly, wildly, and without apology. And when you realize this, you stop chasing emotionally unavailable men, not because you learned a trick or a tactic, but because you remembered your worth. And worth doesn't plead, worth doesn't beg, worth doesn't accept half-hearted attention from someone who can't even look you in the eyes. When he speaks, he may still linger, he may still test the door, see if it's still open. But you've changed the locks, you've changed the entire house. The woman he left is not the woman who lives there anymore. Now, you ask different questions. You no longer ask, why doesn't he love me? You ask, why did I stay where I wasn't seen? Why did I shrink for someone who couldn't meet me where I stood? And the answers no longer break you, they free you. This is not a story about rejection. It is a story of remembering. Remembering who you were before someone convinced you that being ignored was a form of romance. Remembering the fire you buried beneath your silence, the softness you dimmed because he couldn't hold it. You are not hard to love, you are hard to manipulate. And that's why he tried to make you feel small, but it didn't work. Because now, you see through it. You no longer crave chaos disguised as passion. You crave peace, presence, a man who meets your gaze and doesn't flinch at your depth. A man who doesn't need you to shrink in order for him to feel big. The addiction starts to dissolve, slowly, not all at once, but with every breath that isn't spent waiting for his message, with every night you sleep without checking his profile, with every morning you wake up and realize you didn't think about him first. You are not healing for him to notice. You are healing so you no longer care whether he does. And one day, without even meaning to, you'll sit across from someone who sees you fully, and he won't have to say a word, because you'll feel it in the way he looks at you, the way he doesn't flinch when you speak your truth, the way he holds space, not because he's trying to win you, but because he values what you carry. That day will come, but you won't be waiting. You'll be living, and he will be a chapter you outgrew, not with bitterness, but with grace. Because some lessons are meant to teach you what you never want to repeat, and some men are just mirrors. They reflect the parts of you still aching to be loved, but once you love them yourself, the mirror breaks, and all that's left is you, the real you, the one who finally remembered her name.